December 1914. In Europe, young men are dying in the freezing trenches of the Western Front, but the brewing conflict has little effect on the people of Chicago, Illinois. It's mid-morning, peak business hours in the center of the Windy City. On South LaSalle Street, people line up to cash checks at Chicago's brand-new Federal Reserve Bank. Inside the bank are 41 employees, but some are not who they seem. These are the Pilaski crew, and the 6 men are about to carry out their first and only heist. A few of them are dressed as guards, and they all keep their heads down. They try to make sure none of the bank workers, the real ones, notice them, or the fact that all of them have Colt 1910s hidden in their jackets. They're not exactly planning on shooting the place up, and they're not going for the cash. They've got their sights on the 2,000 short tons of gold bullion being kept in a locked vault in the basement as part of a classified government handoff. One of the gang, Giuseppe Fiori, a short Italian with neatly slicked back hair, chats with one of the tellers. Permonto's got a silver tongue. He's able to walk into any room and talk to complete strangers like he's known them for years. The teller is immediately charmed by him, as he asks her to walk him through opening a new account. The distraction is good enough to keep her from noticing as 2 more members of the team, Chinese twins Ah Tom and Ah Num, subdue 3 nearby guards. They don't use their guns. The noise would cause a panic, and for this job to go smoothly, they can't make a sound. Nobody is quite sure how they do it, but within seconds, the guards are unconscious. Now it's time for Mads Moody to step up. With frightening strength, he's able to lift up the unconscious guards and carry them out of sight, as if they were just sacks of flour. With them out of the picture, Moody and the twins take their places, as if nothing had happened. While all this happens, the crew's leader, an imposing figure named Richard D. Chappelle, watches on, surreptitiously giving signals to his men. Chappelle is a notorious figure in the Chicago underworld, but despite his notoriety, nobody even seems to react to his presence outside of the other members of his crew. The 6th member of the team, Louis Bernstein, a slight Jewish man with round glasses, waits apprehensively for the boss to give him a signal. But it's not his time yet. Right now, it's Permonto's turn again. He pulls his gun out and puts his silver tongue to good use, calmly instructing the bank tellers and customers to get down on the ground and keep quiet. Against all odds, everyone complies. With a stolen set of keys, Chappelle, Moody, Bernstein, and the twins gain access to the basement vault. They reach the vault door, heavy and made of solid steel. It'd take days to crack this safe the normal way, but Chappelle and the Pilaski crew have a few tricks up their sleeve.
"You're up, Bagels,"
Chappelle says, giving Bernstein a nod. With a go-ahead from the boss, Bernstein steps forward. He puts his hands on the door. Fire surrounds his fingers as the metal starts to get hot. Like a human welding torch, Bernstein is able to burn through the vault door to get to the riches within. The Pilaski crew are an all-anomalous heist crew, and their leader, Chappelle, isn't just any mafia boss, the head of the infamous Chicago Spirit. His anomalous ability? He's a Type C reality bender. Permonto has the power of persuasion, able to convince anyone to do anything. Moody is super strong, the twins are adept thaumaturges, and Bernstein can create and control fire. It's the perfect combination of powers needed to pull off the perfect heist in just 19 minutes. Or so they thought. By the time Bernstein gets the vault open, it's clear that something's off. The spell that was seemingly cast over the bank has broken, and the sounds of gunshots and approaching sirens don't bode well for the team. Bernstein looks around, hoping to get instructions from the boss on what to do, but Chappelle is nowhere to be seen. And when the smoke clears, neither is the gold. Later that day, the entire crew, save for Chappelle, have their pictures taken at the police lockup. The Chicago PD don't exactly know what to make of the heist, the way they were able to subdue their hostages so easily, the fact that they melted the vault seemingly without a blowtorch, and especially the way the gold bullion evaporated into thin air. That's where embedded SCP agent Detective Chad Pick comes in. He interviews Bernstein first. Maybe it's just because of the glasses, but he seems like the kind of man who'd be smart enough to do the right thing. Pick enters the interrogation room and takes his hat off.
"Detective, what can I do for you?"
Bernstein asks, as if this was a house call and not a police interrogation.
"I think we both know the answer to that question,"
says Pick. Bernstein smirks. "Refresh my memory." Pick cuts straight to the point. He asks where the money is and where the man is who took it. At the mention of Chappelle, Bernstein's expression darkens.
Even if I did, give me one good reason why I would tell you.
Pick folds his arms and raises an eyebrow.
I've got 30 reasons that a federal judge is more than happy to give you.
Bernstein seems unmoved by the threat of jail time. Despite his looks, it seems like he's every bit as hardened a criminal as his associates.
At least in jail I'll be alive,
he scoffs.
Have you ever met Mr. Chappelle, Detective?
Even with as long as he'd been embedded in the Chicago police, Pick hasn't met Richard Chappelle. When he says as much, Bernstein gives a dark chuckle and tells him he should count himself lucky.
Usually in this business, Bernstein explains, the closer you work with someone, the less you fear them. For Mr. Chappelle, the opposite is true. I worked with him in one of the biggest robberies ever planned, and I'm just as scared of him as everyone else.
Is that right? Pick gives him a skeptical look. Bernstein shakes his head.
No,
he corrects.
More. I've seen what he does to snitches. But of course this is all moot. I don't know where he is.
He leans forward, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper.
And frankly, the less I talk about him, the better.
Pick pauses, scratching his chin thoughtfully. He'd been hoping he could get more out of him, but at least he knows one thing for sure.
I know you know where the gold is.
Bernstein shakes his head.
I haven't killed anyone, which means I'm free of capital punishment,
he says.
Why shouldn't I just serve my time and then come back for it as a free man?
Pick smirks.
What makes you think you're the only one with that idea?
At this, Bernstein blanches.
What?
The other four are planning the exact same thing, says Pick.
And who's to say they won't get out early for good behavior?
Bernstein is at a loss for words. A bead of sweat rolls down his forehead. He understands exactly what Pick's implying.
I don't know where it is,
he explains,
but I know what happened to it. It was the twins. They went in and did some of their foreign hocus-pocus.
Pick opens his notebook and starts scrawling down some quick notes.
Mr. Chappelle. He said he had it all planned out, Bernstein says. He wouldn't let something this risky flop. He's planning something.
Pick makes some more notes.
With Moody, no doubt,
Bernstein continues.
He'd take a slug for the boss. They're up to something, I know it.
Well, now Pick has a thread he can follow. Next to be interrogated is Moody. Pick enters the room and sits down. The first thing Moody tells him is,
I ain't no rat.
Pick lets him know that the other members of the crew aren't so honorable.
I have Bagel singing like a bird in the next cell over,
he mentions towards the adjoining wall.
I bet he was the smart one. Right? Wise head? Yeah,
Moody grumbles.
Then why don't you go on and follow his lead, huh?
Pick folds his arms.
Don't be a patsy, spill the beans. What do you want to know?
Moody says.
You said it yourself, Gumshoe. Bagels and the boss planned it all out. I was just the Bruno, supposed to keep the bulls off us and the schmucks in line while we emptied the place.
Now this is interesting. He asks Moody to tell the whole story from the beginning. According to him, Fiori knew a Strega, an Italian witch, who did dealings with the mafia. Fiori got the Strega in contact with Chappelle, who got her to make a potion that would make sure nobody in the bank took issue with the members of the Pilaski crew, unless one of them did something that made them think otherwise.
Like shooting at him,
Moody clarifies. Pick asks him to keep going.
Sounds like you have something personal against Mr. Fiori,
he says.
Well, I worked with him before,
Moody says.
We got pinched 2 miles outside the city and he starts chatting up the bull. Before I know it, he's pinned the whole thing on me. Little stool pigeon.
Pick makes sure to note that too. He asks again about Moody's thoughts on Bernstein.
He's a coward. Doesn't have the killer instinct you need to bump someone.
Moody sneers.
He kept crowing about how he didn't want it to become a massacre.
This makes Pick think back to how insistent Bernstein was that he hadn't killed anyone. Finally, he asks about Chappelle.
He was with us when we burned through that vault. Then as soon as the coppers were shooting the way in, gone.
Moody casts a suspicious glance over his shoulder and lowers his voice.
I don't think he was ever there to start with.
Pick writes down by location in his notes. With someone like Chappelle, you never know. Then Moody tells him what he thinks happened to the gold.
Bagels was in the vault with the twins when it vanished. He could have stopped them, but he didn't.
Pick makes one final note. Either Moody's lying, Bernstein's lying, or they both are. But before he can talk to the twins, he has to talk to Fiori. Compared to the other two, Fiori is calm, almost cheerful. He's not bothered by prison at all, he says. It's never as bad as people say. Appreciating the honesty, Pick is straightforward.
We'll make this quick. 3 questions.
The first question is about the Strega.
I don't know about what Signore Chappelle gave the Strega in return, Fiori says. She usually works for the outfit though, so it must have been generous compensation.
Fiori laughs.
Or knowing how the Signore works, sufficiently intimidating.
He goes on to explain how the spell worked. It required some hair and blood from the bank employees. Pick asks his second question.
Do you know where the twins moved the gold?
Fiori shakes his head.
That I do not, Signore. Come on, help me out here.
Pick may not be anomalously persuasive, but he still knows how to talk to criminals.
I'm sure helping us recover the bullion would lead to a very appreciative judge.
Fiori relents.
Even two thalmics are not enough to move that kind of mass large distances,
he explains.
I do not know where it is exactly, but it is somewhere in the city.
Pick nods and writes it all down.
But spells are not just done on a whim,
Fiori continues.
This was pre-planned. I think that the twins and Signore Chappelle double-crossed all of us.
Pick takes this to mean that Fiori doesn't know where Chappelle is either. Pick thanks him for being more accommodating than the others.
They're lying through their teeth,
Fiori says.
They have no reason to lie, but Signore Bernstein is looking at the murder charge.
Pick's eyes widen. Suddenly what Moody said about him makes sense. He asks Fiori to clarify.
He barred through the vault door, without realizing there was a guard stationed on the other side. Little more than a pile of charred bones now.
Then the time comes to talk to the twins, Ah Num and Ah Tom. Pick is only able to speak to Ah Tom, though, as Ah Num was rendered mute by having his tongue cut out many years ago. Like Fiori, the two of them are as cool as cucumbers. Pick cuts to the chase.
Where is it?
Where's what? Says Ah Tom. Pick grits his teeth.
Don't jerk me around. I know you two couldn't have moved it far. You seem tense, officer.
Ah Tom grins.
Perhaps you have a personal stake in finding the bullion. You'll never find it without us. And I think you know what we want.
Pick frowns.
Not here to make deals.
The twins look at each other. Ah Num signs something to his brother, then they both look back at Pick.
We are,
says Ah Tom.
Watch that tongue,
says Pick, unless you want yours cut out too. There's a stunned silence. Ah Tom furrows his brow.
How did you know my brother's tongue was cut, detective?
He asks. Pick clears his throat.
Bagels told me,
he says. Ah Num holds up 7 fingers.
The number of bottles we were given,
Ah Tom explains.
Would you like to parley, officer?
At this point, Pick sends the stenographer out, and the rest of his interview goes untranscribed. We don't know what was said in that room after that moment, only that the next day Chad Pick failed to show up at his desk at Precinct 17. When a concerned coworker went to his apartment to check on him, they found the place wrecked with blood everywhere. Pick's body was found shoved into the closet, missing chunks of hair and nearly all of his blood. Curiously, though he'd been seen the previous day, it seemed like his body was already in an advanced state of decomposition. When additional officers arrived at the crime scene, the bodies of Ah Num and Ah Tom were found in the dumpster in the alley behind Pick's residence, wrapped in canvas drop cloth. The cause of death for both was a single gunshot wound. We still don't know how either escaped, and the whereabouts of both Richard Chappelle and the stolen gold are unknown. The Foundation's current hypothesis is that the so-called Agent Pick was an associate of Chappelle's, making use of the Strega's potion to impersonate the real Agent Pick, who he'd killed earlier in the week. This person was presumably also the one who snuck Ah Tom and Ah Num out of their cells. But the question remains, who was the killer? Did this unknown associate shoot the twins in a disagreement over what would happen to the gold? Or did a third party get wind of their scheme and ambush them? Maybe all three were killed simply to tie up loose ends, and only Ah Num and Ah Tom's bodies were found. Perhaps the killer and the imposter were both Chappelle himself. Even though he was seen at the bank during the heist, his ability to bilocate means that he easily could have been in the police station at the same time. And what about the supposed guard who Bernstein killed? Perhaps it really happened. Or perhaps Fiori was lying to make his associate look more guilty than he was. Then there's a possible third option. If the spell to move the gold was pre-planned, maybe the charred bones didn't belong to a guard at all, and were just some kind of grim somatic component to the twins' thalmic workings. When it comes to criminal matters, it's never entirely clear who's telling the truth and who's just trying to save their own skin. Given that forensic technology was in its infancy in 1914 and all of the involved parties are long dead, it's possible that even with the full resources of the SCP Foundation, we may never know what happened. We invite you to read the files on this case in its entirety. Perhaps if you spot something new, you might be the one to finally solve a century-old mystery. Check out the Dr. Bob Patreon and become a junior researcher today. Now go and watch another entry from the files of Dr. Bob, like SCP-189, Hair Imitating Parasite.